Hey guys, how's it going? Um, I just wanted to share some patterns that I've noticed in the calendar. So, those of you guys that have been with me for a while know that some kind of bizarre coincidences have been happening in alignment with a layered biblical timeline, which basically just means that, um, when I went back and I started these timelines on specific fulfillment dates. So we had that fulfillment of Daniel 12:11 back here, and then Daniel 12:12 was fulfilled September 16th, and then we had the Revelation 12:1 through 5 fulfillment here. If you're not familiar with what I'm talking about, there's a bunch of videos linked below that explain that. But so what I did was I just layered all of these different timelines, the biblical timeline, but starting at different times. So starting the first month of of the first year here on this fulfillment. I'm sorry, on this fulfillment in 2012, the August 2nd. So and then the 1335th day fulfillment right here, and then the Revelation 12:1 through 5 fulfillment. So I started all the different biblical timelines from these fulfillments. And what I ended up with was these layers, all of these layers. And so there were some interesting coincidences, I guess. Like, for example, the Pope resigned right here on the second descent of Moses from the orange timeline. Russian meteor was on the seventh day of Passover from the red timeline. Then the Pope conclave was again on the second descent of Moses from the green timeline. Kind of bizarre. Pope was elected on the day that Noah's reign started from the red timeline, also on trumpets. That the thing with Obama going to Israel exactly on the window for Nissan 10 was pretty bizarre. That happened right in the midst of two 1260-day periods. The first 1260 days started the day that he won the Peace Prize until March 22nd, and then from the 20th until the day before the solar and lunar eclipse in 2016 were 1260 days. So there was this 3-day window in there that we were watching for, and he ended up going to Israel on that very day. Well, it turns out that that 3-day window was actually the 3-day window for Nissan 10, which was the day that Jesus rode into Jerusalem on the donkey. So it was really, really beyond bizarre. And the reason that was a 3-day window is because we were counting from both the new moon and the first crescent. So those that count from the new moon, the 10th day of Nisan would be from the evening of the 20th until the evening of the 21st. And if you count from the first crescent of the moon right here on the 12th, then the 10th day would be the 21st, the evening of the 21st until the evening of the 22nd. So we literally had a 3-day window. Obama was there exactly on that day. Very bizarre. And then the dragon capsule fell back to the earth on the first day of standard Passover. That in the purple, that's the standard Jewish calendar. And then the 7th day of Passover from the standard calendar landed on Easter. Then we had the first major solar flare of the year happen on what would be trumpets on the green timeline. And then I started noticing an interesting pattern with Omer day 21. So before I get into that, because that's going to lead into this second Passover thing and what might be true Shavuot down here. But before I get into that, I need to explain a little bit about the first day of the month. I'm sorry, the first month of the year, which is Nisan or Abib or Aviv. And the reason I want to talk about that is because there are a few other people that are saying that that Revelation 12 fulfillment back in October, and again, I have videos linked below in the description that explain all of that. They're saying that may have been the true Feast of Trumpets, because they believe that the barley harvest was late in 2012. So I went and researched that to see if I could find any evidence that the barley harvest was late in 2012, and I did not find that. And I just want to show you really quick what I'm talking, in case you don't know what I'm talking about here. The first month of the year is supposed to be Aviv. Well, Aviv means literally, it's this word right here, it literally means barley or of greening of crop. So it means green barley, basically. Aviv does. That's so the first month, and this isn't, there's another scripture that actually says the first month of the year will be Aviv. I don't have that in front of me right now. But it literally means green barley. So what some have postulated from that, it seems to imply, and there's no scripture that actually says this, but the scriptures seem to imply that the first month of the year needs to start when the barley is green, basically. So there are some groups that, for example, this Jewish sect right here called Karete, and I'm not sure how to pronounce that. They go by the barley specifically. So they will wait until the green barley, until the barley is at this very specific stage of ripening. And then that is when they start their first month of the year, is when they cite that Aviv barley, they call it. It's the green barley. And so according to their reports, the Aviv barley was right on schedule in both 2012 and 2013. It wasn't late according to them. So if you have some information that I don't have and you want to explain to me how the barley was late in 2012, please do so, because I looked everywhere and I can't find any proof that it was late. And I'm maybe there's something that I'm missing, but according to the ones that are watching for it, apparently they're saying that it was right on schedule. So March 23rd in 2012 was just before the first day of Nisan on the standard Jewish calendar. And then again in 2013, it was right on the new moon and the first day of the month on the standard Jewish calendar. So the standard calendar here, it's here in purple. It started right here on the new moon, and then if you count from the new moon, then the 10th day of Nisan is here, and on the Jewish standard calendar, they count from the first crescent, and so it's right here. So Passover on the standard calendar was in March, and the barley, the green barley, apparently coincides with that. So I can't find anything that seems to indicate that the barley was a month late. What some people are saying is that, okay, the barley was late, a month late, therefore the sign of Revelation 12:1-5 that occurred October 16th must be the true Feast of Trumpets. Let me show you what I mean real quick. So if we go back to March And for those of you that already understand, I mean, obviously you can skip ahead, but I just want to explain this. Here it is. Here was the Aviv barley that they sighted, and it was right on the new moon. And then if we go to NASA's website right here, you can see the new moon is right here on March 22nd in 2012. That's the first month. So this would be 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. And the seventh month would be the blowing of the trumpets, the Feast of Trumpets. So it's September 16th right here. And that's exactly what the standard Jewish calendar celebrated. They had their Feast of Trumpets on September 16th through the 18th. So this Revelation 12 sign that was extremely rare happened a month later on October 16th. And it doesn't happen again for 500 years. It hasn't happened previously for 500 years. So it's really rare. And so my thought is, well, that absolutely has to mean something, but what? I mean, could it be a kind of trumpet in and of itself, even though it's not technically the seventh? It's not the seventh month, it was the eighth month. Because we know the Aviv barley was sighted, apparently, according to the couple of sites that I saw. The beef barley was sighted on time, and this would have been the seventh month right here, which would make this next new moon the eighth month. So, but here's what's kind of interesting about it. Even though this is, I don't believe, the seventh month, it's the eighth month, it coincides with Second Passover. So here's the thing that's really bizarre about it. If you count 7 months from here, then your first month lands on the standard second month because it's a month behind, right? And Passover is in the first month. So if we count 7 months from this, and I'll show you on NASA's site, here it is right here, October 15th was the new moon. So if we count 7 months, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, we end up in April. So 7 months from that Revelation 12 sign lands us in April 2013, which was the second month. Okay, so there's this scripture that says that anyone who is polluted needs to celebrate Passover in the second month instead of the first month. And so Passover, counting from that Revelation 12 sign, would land right here at the same time that standard second Passover would occur. So I found it interesting that, first of all, the world that we live in right now is completely polluted. So everyone on the planet right now is breathing polluted air, unless they've been living underground with oxygen tanks. Everyone on the planet is polluted. Everyone. We're all breathing this polluted air. We're all eating polluted food. I mean, even people that are Amish that don't, even if they're using organic, they have maybe an organic farm, they're still, like I said, they still have chemtrails over them that are dropping these chemicals onto their crops. So even if you're eating, unfortunately, even those of us that eat organic food are still getting the chemicals from the chemtrails in the air. So, and not only that, but there's all this other pollution. So everyone on the planet right now is polluted. And that's what the scripture says. It says those who are polluted, the word is actually polluted, should celebrate Passover here. And so what I'm wondering is, okay, so is this Revelation 12 sign somehow telling us that we should be celebrating Passover in the second month now? And it's just an idea, but here's the other thing that kind of made me wonder that. And it's this pattern that occurred on Omer Day 21. So they count 50 days after Passover, and they start on the day after Passover, and they count 50 days to Shavuot, which is first fruits. And just really quick, I'll show you, because I think some people are not clear on this. I'm not sure why, but first fruits is the Feast of Weeks. That's Shavuot or Pentecost. And they count 50 days to that. Well, Jesus was crucified on standard Passover, and he was considered the first fruits, and he was crucified right here. But none of us are like Jesus. So it's another thing that makes me think that maybe this whole thing that's coming up next is going to surround, not around standard Passover, but around second Passover. You see what I mean? Because it's the harvesting of, supposedly it's the harvesting of a large number of people this time instead of just Jesus. But those people are not Jesus. They're secondary. You see what I mean? It's hard to explain. Okay, but here's the other pattern I noticed. So they start counting the Omer the day after Passover, which was right here. And on Omer Day 21, we had the Boston explosions that happened, which led me to postulate that there might be an event on Omer Day 21 from second Passover. Well, it turns out there was an event on Omer Day 21 from second Passover, and it was those 3 X-class solar flares. So if you don't know anything about solar flares, an X-class flare is the largest as far as I know, it's the largest we've ever had. It's kind of like an 8.0 earthquake. It's rare. They don't happen very often. And to have 3, and I think maybe there might have been 4, to have 3 or 4 X flares all in a row it's never happened before. It's unprecedented. It has never happened before on record since they've been recording these things, as far as I know. It was extremely rare. That happened on Shavuot, the 50th day of the Omer, from standard Passover. But it was also the 21st day of the Omer from second Passover. So here's the other thing. On second Passover, there was a lunar eclipse. So Revelation 12, the Revelation 12 sign on October 16th. 7 months after, if we counted that as the Feast of Trumpets, the first day of the 7th month, then Passover would happen right here when that lunar eclipse happened. It would literally happen right on the lunar eclipse, because that Revelation 12 sign happened on the first crescent of the moon. So this 2-day period here is the new moon was on the 10th and the first crescent of the moon was on the 11th. So from the first crescent of the moon, we count 14 days. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 14. And so Passover would be, it would start on the 24th, the evening of the 24th until the evening of the 25th. So this lunar eclipse literally happened on the day of Passover, exactly from 7 months from that Revelation 12 sign. So the Revelation 12 sign happened on the first crescent of the moon. And if that was the true trumpets, then true Passover would be right here on the very day of that lunar eclipse. And Omer day 21 from that Passover would land on the 3 X-class solar flares. Here's the other thing I thought was really interesting about it. The Boston explosions that happened on Omer day 21 from standard Passover is considered a false flag event by pretty much everybody that's done it, that's even paying attention to it. So the Omer Day 21 event was false flag from standard Passover. But Omer Day 21 from second Passover was a celestial event that cannot be faked. I mean, I don't really know, but it kind of seems like it might be confirmation that second Passover is true Passover. Well, if this is true Passover, then true Shavuot would be down here in June 12th through the 14th is the window for that. Depending on whether you count from the new moon, which would be right here, or the first crescent, which would be right here. So here's the window for Shavuot, true Shavuot, if second Passover was the true Passover. So for me, I think it's not so much about the barley being laid, it's not so much about that, but it's more about second Passover. So it's more about the polluted environment that we live in, and the fact that the rare Revelation 12 sign seems to point us to second Passover, and this lunar eclipse is kind of confirmation of that. And then again, this Omer Day 21 event that was false flag here, but a celestial event here. Maybe. I don't really, I'm not saying yes for sure this is what it really means. I'm just kind of pointing out that the patterns are interesting to me. So, I guess this is where we are right now. And this would be that same timeline from counting Revelation 12, the Revelation 12 sign as possibly a trumpet, like the trumpets. Maybe the true trumpets, I don't know. But if it was, then Noah's reign would start right here on Memorial Day. And then Shavuot would be right down here in June 12th, through the through the 14th is the window for that. So I don't know. I mean, that's just kind of an update. And then Moses, oh, this is kind of interesting. And then Moses would ascend on Father's Day. And so that's all the gray timeline. So that's what I'm kind of looking at right now is the gray timeline, because it just seems interesting to me. I mean, I'll scroll through here if you want to look at it. It just seems interesting that it seems to point at Second Passover. I think there was something else at the end here. Yeah. Oh, that's the 7th day of Hanukkah. And then on that same timeline, that gray timeline, the 7th day of Hanukkah would land on January 1st, New Year's Day. I guess that's just maybe just an interesting thing. Another thing I thought was kind of interesting about the timeline was that the standard Jewish Hanukkah this year starts on Thanksgiving Day. That's the standard Jewish calendar. So anyway, just to cover this other chart that I did, just trying to understand, where we are in Scripture, basically. I've explained in other videos that from what I can tell, this whole, all of these fulfillments that have happened since 1947, they seem to align with Scripture very, very well. And so far, there hasn't been any contradictions. And if this is really the true timeline, and I have videos linked below in the description box if you don't understand what all of this stuff is. But if this is all truly the timeline that Gabriel and Jesus were talking about, and also St. John, then it would all have to end by the 70th Shavuot, which would be right here on May 31st of 2017. And I guess that's debatable because, again, that Shavuot is dependent upon when Passover is, and Passover is dependent upon when the Aviv barley is sighted. So there's always the possibility that this could be a month late, if the barley is late that year. So this isn't really set in stone because, like we were talking about before, it's dependent upon on that harvest. That's the whole how it works. So if something happens and the harvest and the barley doesn't, the little green buds don't show up for a month, on time, and they're a month late, then we have an extra month here. But as it is right now, the way it looks to me is that the way the timeline looks to me personally, and I've explained this in my other videos that are linked below, I think you can go check it out, is that there are 5 months of torment after the millstone hits. And these are the scriptures here. And the final escape happens right at that strike, at that millstone strike or the asteroid strike. And since it all has to be completed by the 70th Shavuot, then you can just count back 5 months and see that lands on December 31st, 2016. Again, this could be a month late, so we could even go all the way to January 31st, 2017 for this right here. And since we know that, or at least I've shown why I believe this in my other videos linked below, I've shown why I believe the scriptures are telling us that the 1260 days happen prior to this they end at the millstone. And so that takes us back to July 31st, 2016. So that would mean that the 1260 days that we hear about would have to start by actually August 31st, 2013, because like I said, this could be late. So either July 31st, 2013, or maybe even August 31st, 2013, because we don't know what the barley is going to do in 2017. Um, so we will kind of know by I'm thinking that we will know by October of this year what's really going on, whether or not we really are in the end period that Jesus and Gabriel talked about, or whether or not it's not yet. You know what I mean? We should know that by October. And but anyway, I still think that this timeline is interesting. I left this in here, this 21-day period from day one of Second Passover until Shavuot, and then 1260 days until the eighth day of Sukkot in 2016. I left that in here still because I thought it was interesting and I might want to refer back to it later. But obviously that's not. Well, I mean, I shouldn't say obviously. I don't know. Maybe there's an escape that is symbolic or something. I mean, I don't really know yet. But anyway, I just wanted to share those thoughts with you guys. That's pretty much it, I guess. I hope you guys are doing really good. I hope you're doing well. I've been working on a, a document for you guys, and all of my free time right now is taken up by that because I'm just trying to get that done so I can get it out to you and you can take it with you. And so that's really, why I haven't been spending as much time on this stuff, but I just wanted to do an update anyway. And I hope you guys are hanging in there. So, when I get that, I'll definitely let you know when I get that done. It's a lot. It's a lot of work. So anyway, that's what's going on, and I will talk to you guys later. Okay, bye bye.